ItalianRootsandGenealogy. Be sure to check out our blog and our Facebook page and our um, audio channel and our great sponsors, Abitiva Casa, Italy Rooting, and Phil Italy. And today my guests are Ilene and Gary Modica, the authors of Tuscany Treasures. So welcome, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you,
Thank
Bob.
you for having us.
It's my pleasure. It's really my pleasure. So, just before we talk a little bit about Tuscany, why don't you give a little bit of background on you and where you're from in Italy, and also your first book, Our Italian Journey.
Okay, well, background is I'm the one that got us here. My grandfather was born in Sicily, lived in America, died in America, never become an American citizen. So I was able to claim my citizenship through my grandfather, and we went through the whole process, and here we are, living in Lucca and loving every minute of it.
Absolutely. And the this journey that took 3 years of dual citizenship. Um, we wrote about it in our first book, Our Italian Journey, and that's kind of how it all started. Is we decided once we were able to get citizenship, we were going to give a gift to one another and spend a year traveling throughout Italy looking for our perfect Italian town. And that's what we did. It turned into that first book. And like Gary said, here we are living our best lives in Lucca.
The hardest thing though was picking that perfect Italian town because there are so many of them.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Uh, yes, I know. The scenery is amazing, and of course, the food is amazing. So, just how did you pick the perfect town? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people thinking about going there, and they just don't know where to start.
Well, we started very simply by what are our needs. We weren't going to have a car, so we need a good train slash bus line to get around in. We lived while we were in Italy for a year in hill towns, and we lived in flat towns, and flat towns were much better. Bicycle friendly, walking friendly. I didn't feel like a billy goat going up 17,000 feet. It just what that's that. Let's see what else. We had to have
A grocery
yeah.
store walkable distance, or at least on a bicycle. And if possible, a little English spoken because we're still learning Italian 4 years into this adventure. And so, we didn't want to feel isolated by not having some English spoken. So that was our basic criteria. And Luca fit all the bills for us.
It just checked off all the boxes.
Yeah.
It really did. And like Eileen said about learning the language, I'm still learning the language. The language I grew up with was Sicilian, and there is nothing more different than Italian and Sicilian. I mean, I think I've gotten a Sicilian dictionary. I've gotten through the M's, and I found maybe 50 words that are the same.
We had this discussion, Bob, with your other guests on another
Yeah,
show of
it,
yours.
it's just amazing. So yeah, we were all picking up a little Italian day by day, and it's best you can do.
I'm trying to learn. I just got we have the club has a class, and we got a couple of one guy's from Italy, so he's from like the north Trieste area, and our teacher's from Trieste, so they have the real Italian. But I just picked up my copy of Italian for Dummies. Uh, I'm going through that. It
Maybe
was
that's what we need.
Well, yeah,
it's 600 pages for $20, so you can't go wrong.
Okay, I
So
might invest in that, Bob.
I'm gonna give that a whirl and see how we do. Yeah, I grew up hearing it, and like so many others, they didn't teach us, and I'm so disappointed that I didn't learn. At least you have the Sicilian when you go there. You could speak Sicilian. Um, so I want to ask you about why did you decide to do this tour of Tuscany and write the book? I know you hit 31 cities, I believe. And I know we're not going to be able to cover all 31, but maybe we could cover, 5 or 6 of your favorites.
Well, it's funny. So this this guidebook is completely different than our other two books. Our other two books are, like I said, Our Italian Journey, and then the second part to that is When Your Heart Finds Its Home. Both of those are memoirs of our travels and like how we started and where we ended up.
And why we picked Luca.
Right. So
Mm.
then I was talking to Gary, and there are so many guidebooks out there on the market. I mean, face it, from Rick Steves to DKY and everything in between. But it hit me that we're asked several questions over and over by readers, by blog subscribers. And one of the questions is always, what's happening in Rome, or what's happening in Lucca in May, in October, and so it's the festivals and traditions that I said to Gary, what happens if we take that knowledge that we have and put it into a guidebook? Now, we know things change, obviously. So somebody had asked us why in this book we didn't add hotels and
Restaurants.
restaurants. Thank you. And they're always changing. You know how they close down, they change management. So that, to me, that's what we have the blog for. So any kind of those two recommendations we have on the blog, and it's easier to change that information on our website than it is to change in a book. But the festivals in towns usually year after year are the same. They're within the same couple of days. So it was that information that people kept asking for that made us decide to change hats.
Yep.
And write a guidebook, completely out of our wheelhouse.
Still describing the towns a little bit, but more about the holidays and what's celebrated.
The food you can
The
expect,
food,
and the
the
wine,
typical foods and wines, yes.
how to get there, which we thought was important. And so it was just one of those things. We took a shot and said, let's share this knowledge. And it's been so well received. So, but we have, so let me see, I have this in front of me. We have some different towns that people may not have heard of, So obviously Luke is in the book, and the chapter's a little longer than we probably would have liked, and Florence, and the main things. But Bagni de Lucca, a lot of people don't know of that. And Certaldo was a charming medieval town.
The lower part of the town is modernized. The upper part of Certaldo is the old city,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, and we've thrown in some of our stories that we have also. Again, it's a guidebook, but we wanted to make it personal, and people that know us know we always have stories. So there's towns like Grosseto. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that those are incredible towns. What else, Gary? San Miniato. I mean, it's a town that we've come to love because of one of our favorite wineries is there. And so we go every year to see Becconcini Winery,
Yes.
and they're in San Miniato. And so that's a favorite of ours.
I mean, Vinci was a gorgeous little hilltop town.
Gosh, yes.
We
need to go back.
Yeah, we do.
There's so many we need to go back to, but it's this kind of what do I want to say? Our love for these towns that we thought we'd share and create some insight. It's just one of those things that we're always sharing information, obviously.
I mean,
Well, what I think is really neat about it is, we all know of the big cities and things like that. But you don't experience the real Italy when you're in those big cities. You're in
Exactly.
Naples, Bari a little bit. But when you go to these towns, that's what you feel. So I have to ask you because a lot of people ask me about it. Um, do you when you go to these towns, do they pick you off right away and say Americans?
Oh, as soon as you open your mouth,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and of course, yeah,
Because even though I try and speak Italian, it comes with a New York accent, Bob.
yeah, yeah.
So it's a little difficult for me.
Well, you,
Yeah.
you know what I struggle with now, that I'm learning two things is the vowels you tend to pronounce the American way, right? Uh,
Mhm.
and then consonants, the double consonants kill you because we say cheetah instead of cheetah, right? So that and conjugating verbs. Forget about conjugating verbs,
Now,
but
Verbes, did you
Yeah.
can, I'd like to shoot the guy that invented those.
But it's
Uh,
funny you say that, Bob, because um, a couple friends of ours, Jim and Joanne, and Gary and I went to Norcia. And Joanne and I walked into this little town, little shop, excuse me, and I wanted to get a tea towel. That's my thing. I bake bread and pasta, and we make pasta, so I wanted a tea towel from Norcia. And we walk in, and the gentleman, spoke to us in Italian, and we did okay. Joanne's better at Italian than I. And then all of a sudden, he asked us where we're from. And Joanne and I both said Luca. And so he kind of had a puzzled look, and we repeated it, and he still had that same look. And I said, as in Tuscany? And he went, oh, Luca,
yeah.
because of the two C's. And ever since then, I am more aware of that double consonant than ever before because he didn't know we were
yeah.
from Lucca in Tuscany.
And simple things like in America, you're taught A-E-I-O-U.
Mhm.
If you think of Italian and you say it with that pronunciation, you're going to be wrong all the time because in Italy it's A-E-O-U.
Mhm.
So if you're trying to think of a word, think of what you're looking at and think of how those letters are pronounced.
Yeah, it
And
still doesn't help
90% of
me.
the time you'll get it right.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't seem that way for me, but I keep trying. I'm determined, Bob. I'm determined.
I hear ya, I hear ya. So now you guys drove all around, but a lot of people, especially me, I'm not into driving anymore. Are these a lot of these places easy to get to by train?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And we do. We will rent a car when we need it, on occasion, and it does make things easier for some of these out of the way towns. But a lot of places, and we mention it as in the section on navigating your way, is you take the train and then there is a bus or there is a taxi or it's kind of uh, it, walkable to the main city.
Yeah.
So, but if you do your research ahead of time, I always tell everybody, spontaneity is nice, but spontaneity. See, I didn't even have vino yet. Um, but it's good to be prepared. It is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now with our trip, trying to figure out which places we want to go to. And I a couple of our other trips we were like running around a lot, so that's why this time I tried to pick three cities as a base, so that we're not packing and unpacking every day or every other day.
Right.
So like I said,
That's great advice.
yeah, we'll be
That's
in
that's the way to
Milan.
do it, really,
Yeah, we'll
And
be in
that's
Milan, Florence, and
kind of
Bologna.
what we did for that
for
year.
our
We
first year. Yeah.
Yeah, so we it was a little odd for us that we did not plan ahead. So when we were in one town, Gary would start researching for the next town, and we kind of did it that way, which is so unlike either of us, I think. It made it fun.
Yeah, our
Um,
first 5 months were accounted for. The other seven we
yeah,
kind of did on the wing. Yeah,
yeah. So uh, I forgot where I was going with that.
planning.
Planning. Yes, it's good to plan, but sometimes, it's fun not to also. I get it.
Now, did both of you guys have citizenship?
Yes.
Yes, I was very fortunate that when Gary got his, I was eligible to get mine. And when he did his papers in Los Angeles at the Italian consulate, Mrs. Buyano at the time asked me, "Do I want it?" And I said yes. And so she had me sign the paper. Of course, my maiden name, which is now what I go by here in Italy. It's so strange. Um, and so, right, the 2 weeks after Gary got his, I was granted my citizenship. Now, my bonus was the law changed in January 2000,
What?
help me, for the language requirement,
Oh, that was 2019.
19.
Oh, so
So
you got in before that.
I
Yeah.
got in
Ah,
before, so I
nice.
do not have to pass a language test.
The
And
other thing she got in before was since we were married in 1980, in 83, it changed that the wife can ask for citizenship, but it's 3 years, or it used to be, well, I think it's 3 years after you're married, you have to
Mhm,
apply.
mhm.
right,
She got it right away.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
that's great. I could kick myself that I didn't do it sooner. I mean, I'm real close now, and I want to do it with the kids, but they're making it harder and harder. Now they raise the fees because
Yeah,
to do it together, it would have been like $500. Now it's 500 euros. Now it's 600 euros each. And I was originally eligible for my through my dad, and now I'm not. So luckily, I mean, I could go through my mom because neither one of them, neither one of my mother's parents naturalized. But I don't understand it because, well, I do and I don't. I understand
right.
that maybe they don't want as many people becoming citizens, but on the other hand, people are going there buying houses and adding to the economy. So it's confusing to me. You guys may have a
Absolutely.
better take on it because you're there, but
No, it is. It's the law keeps changing. We know a couple of people that have been in the queue now, and with the new law for what was it, age 21?
yeah,
If
yeah,
if so-
21. Yeah,
I mean, we know a couple of people that have been bumped out of it, and
yeah, it's not
to
fair.
me, if you're already in the process, you should be granted
You should be grandfathered in.
grandfathered in,
Yes,
right?
right, right.
We're very fortunate. Right now, out of our four children, one decided to get her citizenship right away. And it was during COVID, so I know that took longer. It was only supposed to be, a couple of weeks through vital records. It did take a year. But so one of our children now has it because of Gary. So it's a gift that keeps on giving.
Because of my grandfather.
Well, okay.
Thank God Pop never naturalized because that 1924 or 28 rule never came into play.
Yeah.
And there are so many people pulling out their hair. I lost mine for a different reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, like I said, that's the way it was with my father's father. My father was born in 23. My grandfather naturalized in um 39. So my father was 16. And up until just this, last year or last few months,
Yeah.
we were eligible through that. Um, so yeah, we'll see. I got um, just waiting for my daughter to get some papers. I had more problems with my mother's birth certificate here than almost anything else because my mother's my mother's name on her birth certificate is Rachel, but my grandmother called her Caroline because my grandmother had a fight with her sister-in-law just either just before or just after my mother was born. uh, so
Yeah.
she went by Caroline. So all her documentation is Caroline, but her birth certificate is Rachel.
We understand that Gary had
Yeah,
to
yeah.
amend quite a few documents too. I mean, it is a process, and I respect it. But it is so frustrating.
Yeah, yeah. So out of I know you have 31 cities in the book. If you were going to recommend, let's say, five to people to go to, what would you pick?
Okay, Luca.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will.
No, no, no.
I would definitely, Luca is overlooked. It's always been overlooked. People that come to, yeah, especially on cruises, they come into Livorno, and there's day trips to Pisa and Florence. And, sometimes there's an extra stop for Luca. Now, I don't want everybody coming to Luca because, as it is, we have a lot of touristas, but
Yes.
it's charming. I can't say enough about this town. My favorite town, actually, in Tuscany, if I exclude Lucca, is Volterra, and it's still one of my favorites. I think Vinci, like Gary said, was was a surprise. I was surprised how charming it was. And
Mhm.
no, Leonardo was not born there; he was born just outside. Um, but I think Panzano. I'm gonna take up all my.
No, okay.
Panzano
Yeah.
is of course where Dario, the butcher, the famous macelleria. Um, all right,
Dario Cecchini.
Cecchini. See. Okay, what else is what would be for
I
you?
I I love Montepulciano.
Okay, I do too.
It's just something about that town. It's a hill town, so it's a little tough to get around, especially if you're older and knee and hip problems. But there's something about that town that I love. It just, well, I guess the wine has something to do with it. But anyway,
Bingo.
That
uh,
always has something to do with it, right?
yeah,
Yes, it
it's
does,
just
especially for Gary Bob.
it's just a town that you really do feel like they're happy to see
Yeah.
you.
Mm,
Okay.
My other thing would be Isola de Elba, and we have a special connection there because our bar here in Lucca, our Cheers, so to speak, Binarchia, they have a sister bar now in Isola de Elba,
In Porta
Verano,
Azzurro.
Verano, and it's just we went there to support them with friends for their opening a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
and it's gorgeous there. It's an island that different than Capri, different than it's a Tuscan island, and I think a lot of people should visit it.
Yeah,
It's easy
yeah,
to get to on a ferry, and yeah,
yeah. And the bus system that takes you from the ports to uh, the other side of the island,
yeah,
there's transportation, so that's no problem. Let's see. Chitaldo was a favorite,
yeah.
a nice place to go to. I also love Cortona. Um,
Who
you know,
doesn't?
Forget about the fact that it's the book Under the Tuscan Sun, which the movie I've seen probably 50 times now. It's one of my favorites. I still have not found the home
Bramasoli.
Bramasole, but I'm going to go back and search. I swear, I'm going to get there. I'm
What guy admits that he loves Under the Tuscan Sun? I mean, truly, how many men would admit that?
it's it's hard to pick five out of
Well, I
the
think
31.
we
no,
did well, didn't we,
I
Bob?
think you did a good job. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And I'll tell you, it's funny that you mentioned Under the Tuscan Sun. I have to ask um, Diana if she's written another book. She was working on it, but Diana Giovanazzo, I think it is. Or is it E? I don't remember. Sorry, but she wrote two books. One was The Woman in Red, and the other one was Antoinette's sister. Um, and I interviewed her on both books. And the first one I said to her, I said, when I picked it up, I thought it was going to be this chick book, and she laughed, and I said, but it's not. It's a really good book about the Garibaldi and his South American wife and all of that kind of stuff. Um, but it's she writes in a very adventurous kind of way. So I don't know if you've read her books, but they're really, really good. So I
I
have to,
have read one,
yeah, yeah. Which one did you read?
Woman in Red.
Oh, you have to get Antoinette's sister because
Okay.
that's about Marie Antoinette's sister, who was married to the King of Naples. At the time, Marie Antoinette was in France because the Austrians owned they owned Italy basically, well, the north anyway. Um, and what's really interesting about the story is Ferdinand he had no interest in being king, so she basically was running, the kingdom of Naples, and the king was he had these little things that he would do, like if he decided one day he wanted to be a fishmonger, he would go down to the dock, buy all the fish, and act like he was selling fish. He would give it away actually, but he would be a fishmonger. He owned a bar that when he felt like being a bartender or running the bar, he would go to this bar. And he had no interest in running the kingdom. So um,
Interesting. Okay.
and it's really interesting because she also talks about the Austrian and all of that. And actually, uh, they did try to get Marie Antoinette out of France, which I never knew, but the Italians tried to get her out, and they couldn't. It was just too late, and there was just too much stuff going on, and they had to worry about their own situation, which didn't come till I guess 60 years later or something like that. But obviously not with the devastation of there. But yeah, it's a really cool book. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, Jeff was on the chat. He just said both good books. So we got
Oh.
two of us telling you to buy the books.
Okay.
um, so
Oh, I see
what's
the
the
chat.
biggest difference? Because I'm a food person. What's the biggest difference between the food in the north and in the south, especially when you're in these local towns?
Northern food is based on cream, butter, and polenta. Okay, a lot of rich type of foods. Um, Southern Italy is tomato. The tomato is king, pomodoro. I mean, I'm a southern Italian, Sicilian actually, but I can't go a week without red sauce. I can't go 2 days without red sauce. I have to have my pomodoro. I'm sorry, that's just in my genes, and I have the choice now, and I'll take that over buttercream sauces any day. It's
Funny. That is funny.
funny. It's basically, let's put it this way. I read somewhere that Northern Italians think of Southern Italians as loud tomato eating people. Okay.
Well, that's kind of true.
Okay. Southern Italians think of Northern Italians as overachieving,
Workaholics.
workaholic,
Yes.
polenta eating fools.
Yes.
Okay. So there you have it. It's still a North and South
Yeah,
divide.
no, it's just like I was gonna say, it's the same thing here, right? It's not much
Yep.
difference between here. Um, and how about you, Eileen? I guess you don't have to have your tomato sauce every couple of days, huh?
No, because I have to have it because he's the cook.
Ah, yeah, same here. I do most of the cooking here. And actually, yesterday my wife told me I made my best sauce ever. So, um, but
But
we,
did you remember what you did?
well, I don't measure.
Right? No,
Exactly.
I know
I
that's the
don't measure.
problem.
Uh, um, but yeah, if I could probably recreate it. Well, I did freeze some of it, so at least the next couple of times we have tomato sauce. But you know what? I I think it was I think it was the last time in Italy where one of them somebody said to us, "Well, you Americans, you make your sauce with ketchup," and I was like, "No, we're not that bad."
Yeah, exactly.
I hope
um,
not.
no, no, no. Yeah, that was. But my wife did test the cheese on fish just to see what the waiter would do, and he was not a happy camper.
No, 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 no.
So that's an interesting topic then. So for people who are traveling in Italy, especially in the north, because that's where you are, what are some of the do's and definitely don'ts?
Well, definitely no cheese on fish. And
Right.
the reason is Italians feel that the cheese overpowers
Mhm.
the flavor of seafood, and it rightfully does. The only other taboo I could think of is your cappuccino. I mean, they don't frown upon it too much anymore, but if you don't want to stand out as a tourist, then do not order a cappuccino after 11. Just general rule. That doesn't mean you can't. It just means they'll know you're not Italian for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh, General rule for Italy: don't expect ice with your water. Okay, ice comes in a mixed drink, at a bar, an aperitivo or whatever, not in water.
No.
And don't put butter on bread.
Yeah, that's true.
You will get the evil. They'll put the Malloy on
Well,
you.
first of all, no, they won't, but they won't even give
They
you
won't.
that
They won't give
butter.
it to you.
You're not even going to get it, so you can't even put it on
Yeah.
there. We just were back in the States visiting family, and Gary's daughter and our two grandchildren are coming, and where we were kind of giving them a heads up what not to expect, and the butter and the ice were two topics of conversation with our granddaughter Avery.
Well, my daughter, when we came the first couple of years ago, she thought she was going to have the best uh, fettuccine alfredo that
Oh
she would
yeah.
ever have. And we got there, and she said, I want to get fettuccine." I said, "Not, you're not going to get it here. It's an American dish. There's no
Yeah,
fettuccine alfredo in Italy."
yeah,
Well, the funny thing is, Bob, you'll see it on some menus once in a while, and it's when you see it, it's a tourist spot.
right. True.
Okay,
Yes, that's a good point.
because no good Italian will serve fettuccine
Right,
Alfredo.
right. Very true.
That's a good point for people to know, though. If they're looking online and they're looking at a menu, if they see fettuccine alfredo, it's probably
Yeah.
not. That's probably not going to be
Or
really.
spaghetti and meatballs, because that
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
happen
yeah.
either. You can have your pasta and then have your meat afterwards, but you're
Hmm.
never going to have it together on a dish.
On one dish, no.
Yeah. I tell my wife, because she says, "Oh, you cook better than the Italians." I'm like, "Well, I don't know," but I said, "No, you need to open up a bacon and egg restaurant in Italy because for the tourists." I said, "You make a fortune because there's no such thing, right, as bacon and eggs."
Correct. And in fact, on a side note, Bob, I have started a little bagel business because I
Ah,
make New York bagels with my sourdough starter,
cool.
and it's my Americani friends, well, some Australians too. I
Yeah,
shouldn't say that. I
English,
shouldn't. And
Australia.
English. Yeah. They're all loving the little piece of home that I provide.
Yeah, I
Once a
make
month.
my own. I make my own bagels once in a while. It's a lot of work.
It is.
But yeah, well, we'll have to come to Luca and have bagels.
Uh, I'll get you that.
um, so, what other advice would you give to people? Well, I want to ask it two ways. Um, for for people who are thinking about moving there, what advice would you give them?
Uh, okay, great question. I think most people think of this La Dolce Vita kind of scenario. And I would say do not sell everything you own and pack up and move. I would suggest coming. Now, 3 months is all your US passport will allow you to visit. A lot of people don't take advantage of that. And, they'll come for 2 weeks and fall in love with Italy, like, of course, we all do. But in 2 weeks, you have no clue of what it is like to be here. 3 months would give you a better
Yeah,
idea.
3 months you become part of the neighborhood.
Hmm.
The local fruit and verdura store seems to, they
Remember
remember
you.
you when you come in. Um, the shop owners around that you frequent or the bar that you go to for your aperitivo, they start calling you by name. You get a feel of what it's like to actually live in the place.
So I think most people would just you know, and so many people will tell us, "Oh, we envy you." Well, I mean, we took that year. You know,
Yeah.
it was everything we wanted it to be. But is it for everyone? Absolutely.
Yeah, but before
Absolutely
that
not.
year, we also
Oh,
did
Dawn is
two.
right. No pineapple on pizza. You're right,
Okay,
Dawn.
okay. Sorry about that. That's
You're
all. They'll
right.
throw you out of the
Bingo,
restaurant.
bingo.
Uh, that those two 30-day, 90-day rather, stints we did, one in Parma, one in Florence. Uh, that's good. They were very good. They
Yeah.
gave us a really big insight as to what we could expect. Okay. The biggest thing for me to tell somebody if they want to come here and live, um, be ready for the bureaucracy.
Mhm.
Okay. Because nothing here moves fast.
Or easy is easy.
Italy's got two speeds, slow and reverse.
Yeah.
That's it.
And we
Unless you
mean that lovingly, by the way.
oh, definitely, yeah.
That's it.
Unless you're on something with wheels, then everybody is Mario Andretti.
Yes.
It's just things are they're just different. I'm not saying they're better or worse. They are different.
And in the grocery store, you're not going to find some of the foods you've come to live with and love, but you'll find something else that's similar
Absolutely.
and learn to love it too.
And that's what you should do. I mean, making the bagels here was just a way of bringing a little home here for so many. But truly, I mean, the focaccia. Well, how could you not have that
Yeah.
here? You know,
Mhm.
it's you have to embrace what's here, for sure.
Well, I mean, and the big difference that I see with that, and hopefully things will start to change here now. But what everything is so much fresher, and when you're in those small towns, for example, you don't see things wrapped in plastic, right? Everything is made there. The olive oil is so much fresher and tastier, and
Yeah.
the ham and all of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
The bread, is out of this world. So I
Except
guess
in
it's like
Tuscany.
anything else. Yeah, say again.
Except the bread in the Emilia Romagna region and Tuscany, not so delicious. They don't use salt.
Well,
Right.
because it used to be taxed,
Yeah.
and so they still make it the same traditional way, and still pretty tasteless. So
So our favorite
Jeff
local.
mentioned peanut butter. I guess you can't get peanut butter and
No. You
we
can get
can
it.
you
we
get
get
it? Yeah.
Skippy here. It costs €5 and
Almost
40
almost €6
Well, it's almost that
for
much here now.
for a little jar. That's true.
You have
That's
to
Yeah,
go
true.
yeah.
go with the Nutella, I guess, right?
Well, you
Yeah.
can't go wrong with Nutella.
But Gary does have his Skippy. I will say that. So
Yes.
there's a plug
That's
for
right.
Skippy, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, this uh, peanut butter they sell, the European brands they sell.
Okay.
I've tasted wallpaper better than that.
Yeah, so it is something you do have to get used to, but it's an adventure. Yeah, you have to be able and open for change. That's
And the one really thing to me that people are going to have to get used to is, unlike in America where you can always find certain fruits and vegetables all year long
Mhm.
because they're coming from Mexico, they're coming from South America, they're coming from God knows where. In Italy, when it's not growing season anymore, you don't find it anymore. Uh, it's only Italian produce you're going to be eating, and you learn to adjust your sauce, your menus according to what's in season. And I kind of like that. I really do
I do
because
too.
it changes things.
because you look forward to the fig season. It's
Mm.
not like I can get them all year long. No, you have to wait for it. And it makes it worth waiting for the taste of them.
I guess, yeah. I guess that's an interesting way of looking at it. It's almost like here with the change of seasons. There, it's besides the change of seasons. I guess it's the change of food or vegetables and
Yes.
fruit and everything like that. And so, what's the weather going to be like in May? What do I need to pack?
May you
Check the book. Check the book.
Check the book.
May starts you start getting into your low
It's
80s,
yeah, it's nice.
high mid
Even up,
70s.
even by you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
nice.
There's
Yeah.
not much of a temperature differential from Sicily up to the Alps. Believe
Really?
it or not, there's not that much of a difference. Everybody thinks, you go from the Mediterranean or the
I did.
Caribbean
Yeah, I
up to
thought.
Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's in wintertime, there's maybe a 5 to 7 degree differential. In the
Hmm.
summertime, there might be a 10 to 12.
Yeah.
But it's not that different.
Yeah, it's and that we do have a section in the book on the seasons. So what to pack, things like that.
Yep.
What to be aware of. So train travel. There's a section in there. But I find so many people are afraid to travel by train, and oh my gosh, it's the best way to travel in
Yes. Yeah.
Italy.
I
And
agree.
other than, certain little things of like validating a ticket if you're on a local line, we decided to put a chapter in here just because that's another topic that we always seem to
Yes.
get questions on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea because when we were there the last time, we took the train from Taranto to Bari, and it was great. It
Absolutely.
was great. It was comfortable. I mean, everything was clean. The station in Taranto wasn't air conditioned, so it was a little warm in there. But once you got on the train, it was great.
Now you're asking a lot.
And one of the things, one of the things that I lost my train of thought now. Oh well, it'll come back. Maybe not.
I'm glad it happens to you too.
Yes.
uh, yeah, Dawn is mentioning they always use the train. So,
Yeah.
um, but
Good.
it was, it was. Oh, I know what I was going to say. See, it did come back. That what I did was the hotels that we booked for the trip coming up. I put them within walking distance of the central station, so you know we could just walk there easily and don't have to jump in a taxi or something like that to get to the train station. Um, and one one last question, well, two last questions before we go. Um, what about people going there? They want to spend some time in there. What about B&Bs and things like that?
I we always use Airbnb or VRBO. Anytime we're traveling to a town, we'll check those first. That's usually where we book through. Very rarely do we stay in a hotel anymore,
Yeah.
so to speak. Um,
I mean, especially if you're traveling to Italy for that 90 days, I want something with a kitchen.
Hmm.
I don't want to go out,
Yeah.
90 days worth of restaurant food.
Well, you're not going to get
I,
any tomato sauce. So yeah.
yeah, well, but I mean, I want to go try something and then go to the grocery store and see if I can make it.
yeah.
And I like to cook. So besides, when I cook, I get to drink wine. Sometimes I even use it in the food. But
But I would say I always look at the reviews. We have a couple of recommendations on the blog of places
yeah,
that we've visited, and we keep it up to date, um, and restaurants, things like that. But check the the reviews, excuse me, and I think that's still the way to go.
That's great. That's great.
yeah.
So before we go, where can people find the books and why don't you give us how they can find your blog?
Okay, so the blog is easy. It's ouritalianjourney.com. Um, the first book is Our Italian
And journey.
Journey. We were very creative. Second book is When Your Heart Finds Its Home. And again, those are both memoirs. Our new guidebook, that's not traditional by any means, is Tuscany Treasures, a journey through 31 towns. I will give you an inside scoop. We are now working on Umbria because
Oh,
this one
great.
was so well received. We're using the same format and going to include the same information. I doubt we'll stop there, but all of them can be found on Amazon or wherever books are sold, Barnes and Noble, wherever you like the books. I will say that um, for this particular guidebook, the Tuscany Treasures, um, it is available on Kindle, on excuse me, ebook. I I think the paperback has a special feel to it. So we actually used a different program and were able to incorporate some graphics and I just I don't know. I've gotten such great comments on the paperback version. Somebody also bought the ebook just in case, and they also said the same thing. So
Yeah, one of our friends showed us, we were FaceTiming with them, and she showed us her book and all of the yellow post-it notes on the pages of what she wants to see when she comes.
it was
Hmm.
filled. I think there were like 16 different little tags,
Yeah.
flags.
Oh, cool.
It was heartwarming because that's the sign of
Yeah.
your information is worth revisiting.
And
So
we also did an audio book.
oh, that's right. I
Oh,
always forget about
We
that.
did our Italian journey in audio.
Right, and it's two New Yorkers telling their story, and in all its glory.
Yeah, Sam Elliott wasn't available to do my voice, so I had to do it.
Yeah.
so
But
there's
a lot of people.
a little comment from. Well, I'll put it back up.
Oh,
From
Dawn.
Dawn.
God bless. I love this woman.
Yes.
Uh, what's so wonderful, Bob, if I can. So we had a group that started. We all started learning Italian. Now Dawn is obviously much better at it than any of us, but we all have remained friends. So we met through a language learning class,
Mhm.
and
Wow.
we have remained friends all
Yeah.
these years later. I'm still struggling with the Italian, but the friendships are still there, and they're so treasured, truly.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Um, well, when you do the Umbria book, we'll have to do this again. But we'll do it for every region that you do. So
Oh
we'll just keep
boy,
coming back.
we'll see how
um,
long we last.
but thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it, and some really good advice for everybody.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna stop the recording. Hang on. So we just need things to catch up. It only takes a
Yeah.
second. But